Namaste. Hello everyone. Welcome to Shalgulhati, Shiva and Mysticism for another episode of Monday with Mahadev. Lately, I've been speaking to you about some modern day to day life terms and trying to collate them with the ancient learnings and teachings of Shaivism. I spoke to you about GPS. I spoke to you about a gaming term, double or quits, and then we spoke about interior design. And last time, I spoke to you about scratch cards, about how in our life, which we live in a routine way, there is also a scratch card which has a bonus for us. And that scratch card is to scratch our surface and go within and connect with our divinity. And I told you this time I will be speaking about a special thing which is called Prana Pratishta. And I do have another day to day analogy to go along with this. So, there is a question which has been asked from ancient times, from the time of the philosophers and the saints and the scientists and all men, all common people, everyone who had some time to think has asked this question: why did God create this world? And though there have been many answers for this, because it is a question which is like infinity. It can have many, many answers because God means different things to different people. He is one always, but He means different things to different people. For some, He is in the heavens, in the skies. For the others, He is present here. For yet others, He is part of nature. For some, He is time itself. And yes, for some, He does not exist. There are atheists who say we do not believe in God, and that goes well with God because He allows everybody to have their own thoughts. So this question, why did God create the world, has many, many answers. And lately, some modern mystics change the question a little bit. And they ask themselves, not why did God create this world, but with what? With what did God create this world when before creation there was nothing except He Himself, as we assume? And this question, with what did God create the world, is very meditative, and it brings us to the fact that when there was no material other than, there was nothing other than God Himself, and God created the world, obviously He created from Himself. And the modern term which I am going to talk about is the card game called Solitaire. You see, these rishis who said that God created the world out of Himself, which means He is both the efficient and the material cause. When a potter makes a pot out of clay, the potter, is the efficient cause, and clay is the material cause. But in the case of God, He is both the potter and the clay, because there was nothing before He created the world. There was not even time. So the rishis say that God was in Himself and He wanted to know Himself. He wanted to play, He wanted to be loved, and He wanted to grow. Therefore, He created this world out of Himself in order to know Himself. And while some people say that this is not fair, God is playing or knowing himself or growing at our expense. If there are any sufferings or any bad events, and this is all happening because God wants to know himself through the world, this is not fair. But I just spoke to you about the card game called Solitaire. And if you know that Solitaire is a game in which you have all the 52 cards and they are at random. They are in a chaotic position, and one by one you pick them up and you sort them out into their colors, spades or clubs or diamonds or hearts. And you go on doing this till you get the perfect equation. All the lines and the rows and the columns are all in the right place. So you have the ace of clubs, the king of clubs, queen of clubs, jack of clubs, and downwards till the two of clubs, and so on for all the other colors. And when you finish that, the game is over. So Solitaire is a game that you play by yourself, a card game which you play by yourself. And you're just sorting out the deck of cards which you have randomly shuffled. So if there was nothing else but God, and God created the universe out of himself, so he's just playing with himself. This view is a very deep view, and it is called Advaita, not two. There are not two. God is one and we are the other, or God is one and the mountains are the other. There is no such thing. It is all God. Therefore, the question of him being unfair to anybody doesn't arise, because he is just playing with himself. This is their view. But even this view, though Advaita is supposed to be the paramount understanding of mankind, that there is only one principle, only monism, and that principle is God, and everything is God, and it is all just a play. But even this does not suffice. So the Shaivite goes further, and the ancient rishis of Kashmir tried to explain this even further. And they said that Shiva creates not once, not twice, but endless times. And endless times he creates worlds and people and beings. And at the end of a world cycle, everything gets dissolved back into him, because he is the only principle that there is. It has to go back into him. So far, Kashmir Shaivism is like the Advaita philosophy. But then it adds that Shiva can create the next world cycle, the next yuga, through his conscious memory, his supreme memory, which is the Akasha, which is ether. Like on our device, we have iCloud. If we can't store enough memory on our phone, we put it somewhere in cyberspace and we can get it back. God too has a great, great Akashic memory. And even after the world dissolves, which is called Pralay, he scratches his memory and remembers everybody. And then he tries to create those players again. Like in the game of Solitaire, which he has been playing alone, time and again arranging everything. He starts having a concept about who is, let's say, the king of hearts, who is the knave, the jack of spades, and so on. These may be some characters who have come in some yugas. The good and the bad, the devatas and the danavas, Shiva's own ganas and bhaktas, like Nandi and Bhringi, and the guys who played the bad roles like Tarkasur and Bhasmasur. So Shiva remembers everything, and he becomes fond of some characters, and every time that he is making a new yuga, a new creation, he is doing it from his supreme memory. Now, in Hinduism, when we establish a murti like this in the temple for the first time, before it is open for darshans, we have a great tradition called Prana Pratishta, which is that the high priest, along with his team, does certain very sacred rituals and invokes the deity to actually come and be seated in this idol. So this is very sacred. And after that, the eyes of the idol are opened to the public for darshan, for sighting. And we are able to see that murti, if it is of Mahadev, and we believe that Mahadev is seated in this. So, why can it not be that over these endless yugas, creations of Shiva, which always end in pralay and dissolving of things into him, why can it not be like we do Prana Pratishtha, ask him to be present in the murti, the image that we have of him, that he is also exercising a cosmic Prana Pratishtha, that he is now trying that all those characters which were created from his mind, who were his mantras, who emanated from his mind, actually start becoming real and eternal, and therefore this play would shift from Advaita, one principle, to Paradvaita, which means there is an absolute non-duality, the one principle, and that the play of that one non-duality with its characters is also real. In other words, he actually brings the King of Hearts alive. He actually brings the Jack of Spades alive. He actually brings all those bhaktas and ganas and all those players in all those plays of endless time cycles into a greater form of life, into a greater spirituality, so that they can open their divine eyes, their spiritual eyes, and see him just the way that he sees them. I know this was a slightly deeper one, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will be back next Monday with yet another story or wisdom of Mahadev for you. Om Namah Shivaya.